Pavlov VR is one of the most immersive and creative VR shooters out there, but I just can't ignore that Pavlov VR has a major issue, and if it's not fixed, it's going to kill the game. For those of you that have not played Pavlov VR, it's one of the best virtual reality shooters out there, with endless creativity coming from the community thanks to all the custom maps and mods that are in the game, that are somehow still keeping the game alive today. But even though Pavlov is still one of the most played games, there's this huge issue that the developers and the community cannot seem to fix. Now, these might seem like small issues on their own, but together they add up to create one huge problem with the game. And it ruins what could make Pavlov VR the #1 most played virtual reality game. And for some, if not most players, quit Pavlov VR entirely because of these issues. And before we get into this, let me put this out there. I love Pavlov VR, it's an amazing game. For those of you that are in the comments right now getting ready to type away like a knight in shining armor for Pavlov VR, I don't hate the game. But the biggest issue with Pavlov VR is that the game does not have very many players left. And it is nowhere what it used to be back in 2020-2022 prime time. And I'm not the only one with this opinion. If you look at the game's reviews on Steam, they are now mixed. For a game that used to have very positive reviews, this is a sign that the community is not happy with the game. And these reviews didn't come out of nowhere. It came up due to poor decision making by the developers. Now, once again, this isn't any hate on the developers of Pavlov, but there were decisions made by the developers that have turned Pavlov from one of the most played games into an absolute wasteland. Nobody's playing the game. Now, yes, you're guaranteed to find a lobby when you play Pavlov VR. It's not completely dead, like 0 players dead. But if the game continues down this path, I'm sure that in the future, this game will be completely dead. Now, I believe these poor decisions can be fixed. If the community and the developers work together, we can fix Pavlov and turn it into the game that it is meant to be. Now, poor decision #1 was splitting the community up. Now, what I mean by that is that the Quest players and the PC and PSVR2 players are on entirely different platforms. They cannot play with each other. Now, obviously, there is technical limitations to this. And if these two platforms were to get crossplay, you're gonna wanna do it right. Because another VR shooter had this same idea as well. Onward VR was trying to connect its PC and its Quest players together. But to do that, they had to greatly downscale the game on PC, which completely pissed off the entire community. And I know that that game lost a ton of its players because of that update. And still to this day on Steam, Onward has mixed reviews on Steam. But on the Quest platform, everybody loves Onward. If we are going to get crossplay between PC and Quest, it needs to be done right. Which leads us into poor decision #2. And that was making Pavlov Shack a paid game. Now listen, before you get angry, I know why the game went pay to play. I mean, it would make sense from a developer side, right? They're developing this game, they want to get paid, they make the game paid to play. And also, one of the biggest arguments is that, hey, it's going to remove all the annoying kids from the game. But when they made Pavlov Shack pay to play, it didn't translate well because there's not as many people playing the game anymore. If you look at the #1 most played games in the world, I guarantee you it's a free to play game. And when Pavlov Shack was free to play, it was the biggest the game ever got. And what is the #1 most downloaded game on the Quest platform? Gorilla Tag. And you know what Gorilla Tag is? It's free. Now, the biggest argument against this is, well, we want the developers to get paid. Luckily for Bankrupt Games, they've already figured this out for themselves. They have added microtransactions within Pavlov VR, which are weapon skins that you can optionally buy, or you don't have to spend the money on them at all. But another problem leading to Pavlov being so dead nowadays was the fact that in 2023, we got no updates for the game at all, which completely drowned out the community that was already there. But we're getting off track here. The third biggest issue with Pavlov VR is that they completely killed the modding scene. Now, I know what you're saying, Switch, they added an update that made modding bigger and easier to do than ever before. Now, let me retaliate by telling you this. The modding update completely removed the Steam Workshop and the mods that were already there, completely wiping the slate clean of all the mods that were previously there, in turn ended up killing the modding scene. And I can argue that this modding update actually made it harder to mod the game. It may have made it easier for developers to develop mods, but for a player trying to download mods, it made it way more complicated than it had to be. Now in terms of Pavlov Shack, they did great on that side. It made it way easier to mod in that game. But with the PC VR version, it just made things unnecessarily complicated and completely wiped all the mods that were already there. In turn, completely throwing a lot of people off guard, and a lot of people just quit the game simply because their mods weren't there anymore. Now, if we take these 3 big issues and put them together, you can see why the game doesn't have a lot of players left. Now, of course, the core game is still amazing. Everybody still loves Pavlov, including me. But on the marketing and community side of things, it's completely killing it. Now, what do these issues mean, and what can we do to fix them? Now, I am by no means an expert in marketing and developing video games, but I have a proposition for Bankrupt Games on how they could potentially fix and make Pavlov VR bigger than ever before. We can fix all 3 of these major issues in one go. Now, to make this make more sense, I'm going to pretend that I'm the marketing and lead over at Bankrupt Games. And the first thing that I would do to fix Pavlov VR is to make Pavlov Shack free. Now, I know we're going to be missing out on $20 every time somebody downloads the game, but we can make so much more money by getting a lot more players in and having them buy weapon skins. Making Pavlov Shack free to play is going to bring more players in and bring back potentially old players that left the game a long time ago. And the main way we're going to make money is through microtransactions. It's a model the most popular game on the Quest store follows, and Pavlov should follow it too. Not only that, there are no free VR shooters on the Quest store, so it will help our game stand out and bring more players to the game. Now to fix the second problem with Pavlov VR. We are going to fix the crossplay issue. Now, we definitely don't want to downgrade the original versions of Pavlov VR on PC and Pavlov VR on the PSVR 2. And without being able to downgrade those games, there's no way crossplay is ever going to happen between PC and Quest players. Unless we take Pavlov Shack and put it on PC as a free-to-play game. Now, hear me out. If we just port Pavlov Shack as a free game to PC and PSVR 2, as a downgraded version of the game to make it compatible with PC and Quest, and if we leave the original Pavlov VR alone and still sold as a $30 game, you can keep both communities happy by not downgrading the original game, but also having a crossplay version where all headsets can play together. And as a free-to-play game that makes its money off of microtransactions. This will bring even bigger player counts than we've ever seen on Pavlov Shack. Because let's be honest, Pavlov Shack has the highest player count. And if we just put Pavlov Shack on the other platforms, allowing them to join with Quest players, and also as a free-to-play game, I think the player count would go boom. Now for the modding situation, it would be a little bit weird for PSVR 2. Because I know that PlayStation has a very odd modding community. They don't really like mods on their platform. But you could just do the same thing that they're doing between PC and PSVR 2 on Shack as well, allowing PC and Quest players to download mods where PSVR 2 players can only play the base maps. And I believe that if Bankrupt Games followed this business model, they would have on their hands the #1 selling VR game without a doubt. And heck, they could even do a total rebrand of the game, giving it a whole new identity, bringing even more players. But what do you guys think the biggest problem with Pavlov VR is? Also, let me know if you guys agree or disagree with my business plan down in the comments below. I really want to hear what you guys have to say. Also, don't forget to like this video and subscribe. Also, try and share this video around. We gotta get this to the developers of Pavlov. Also, don't forget to stick around. I got way more Pavlov VR content coming out soon. But anyways, guys, peace out.